Hello and welcome to Snarky Wine's video tasting notes. I'm Kevin Gagnon, Valpolicella wine specialist and wine journalist living in Germany. Today I have a relatively small estate from the heart of the Valpolicella Classico zone. The name of the estate? Rubinelli Vajol, and they have 10 hectares of vines in San Pietro in Cariano. Now, San Pietro in Cariano is one of the 5 areas that make up the Classico zone. There's the 3 valleys, Fumane, Marano, and Negrar, and then the 2 similar to valleys areas called San Pietro in Cariano and Sant'Ambrogio. Now in San Pietro, it's located directly south of the valleys of Fumane and Marano. In fact, the vineyards of Rubinelli Vajol are located in a small valley, a rather shallow valley, called Vajol. The family name of the estate is Rubinelli, and it's been around for several generations. The founder of the estate, Gaetano Rubinelli, began it at the turn of the last century. Gaetano was an engineer responsible for building a dam on the Adige that was the source for electric power for all of the Veneto after its creation. So an honored history in this family. Currently, the estate is headed up by Renzo Rubinelli, who I know personally, a philosopher and a poet and an artist, and a really charming guy. I got to sit with him together at table at the Amarone Anteprima a few years ago, and I think it was a calculated decision by the consortium in Valpolicella because Renzo, like many Italians, doesn't speak a lot of English. In fact, I don't think he speaks any English, but he speaks fantastic German. And since I live in Germany and am fluent in German, it was a good decision for me to sit with him. And since I studied philosophy at university, we had a lot to talk about. Renzo is a real philosopher. He has written a thesis on it, and that's why he speaks German, because his mentor and some of his writing was about German philosophers. So, enough about philosophy. Let's talk about the estate and talk about the wine. As I said, 10 hectares of vines in the little valley of Vajol in San Pietro in Cariano. Now, the northern border of this estate is, as I mentioned, on the valleys of Fumane and Marano. The soils here are primarily marl. There's a lot of clay and calcareous elements, and there's a lot of tuff, that is the volcanic stone. It's a very tufaceous region. So the soils are very good for maintaining moisture but also have good drainage. The grapes get everything that they need. It's a very thin layer of fertile soils on these rocks. So there is everything that is necessary for good quality grapes. The estate is run sustainably. Now, of course, this is a difficult word to define. But in the case of Rubinelli Vajol, sustainable means that they are using no artificial fertilizers, no artificial pesticides or herbicides. They focus on only natural treatments, and they focus very much on the health of the vineyards and the biodiversity found in them. We have the typical grapes of the region, only traditional grapes. There are no international varieties. Corvina, Corvinone, Rondinella, as well as a little bit of Molinara, and my favorite, Oseleta. Now there's a particular style that Rubinelli Vajol follows for all of the wines that they produce. They make one wine of each of the styles normally available in Valpolicella. So there's one Valpolicella Superiore, one Ripasso, one Amarone, one Recioto. This is not untypical for the region, but it is always nice to see that the efforts are being focused on one wine for each of the different directions that they can go. Now, I talked about elegance, and that is really an important aspect of the wines here. Renzo even makes that decision clear on the label of his bottle. So here we have the Amarone from 2013 with 16% alcohol, and if you look, Renzo is using a lowercase a for the word Amarone, and he does this intentionally because the uppercase A, he feels, has too many corners and edges to reflect the smoothness and elegance of the wine inside the bottle. This particular wine is 40% Corvina, 40% Corvinone, 10% Rondinella, and 5% each of Molinara and Oseleta. The grapes went through 4 months of appassimento, that is the drying process, before the maceration and fermentation, which were very long and gentle in order to protect the fruit flavors and encourage the complexity of the wine to develop. Now, they are also, after the fermentation, were put in barrels, 300-liter barrels, so not barriques, slightly larger, for 36 months before then being filled And this is the current vintage, the 2013. So they hold these wines back to give them time so that they reach the point where they can be enjoyed. Now let's have a look at the actual wine. 2013, so 7 years of age already, and yet the color is so youthful. It's an intense, limpid ruby red with almost no garnet aspect at all in the glass. The nose is extremely intense with very great ripe strawberry and sweet herbs. There's also a little bit of mint in the finale and tobacco, black tea, and even a little bit of cocoa, but there's not a strong wood character in the nose of this wine. On the palate, it presents a lot of power, but also real finesse. It handles this power very easily. Fantastic freshness, really good mouth-watering wine. Very young, really good red, ripe red fruit character like mulberries and strawberries, more raspberries, more sweet herbs, particularly in the middle palate. It has extremely fine tannin. That's helpful that it's got some age, of course. Really fine, with still good grip, but very, very ripe, almost juicy. And it has an extremely long finish, which is salty. It offers that salty minerality that is so important and so useful to go with food. And this wine could easily be paired with a lot of different kinds of dishes. You wouldn't really think that this wine is already 7 years old, that it presents such youthfulness on the palate. And that speaks very well to its potential in the cellar if you want to keep it. For a while, this is going to develop in a really nice direction. With all these primary fruit characteristics, it's going to go a long time. And now, with a little bit more time on the palate, I'm getting some ginger and also a little bit of clove right in the finish as you're breathing out. This is a very nice, complex wine that's also very, very faceted and nuanced and not jammy in any way at all. This is a prejudice about Amarone that I would really like people to reconsider. The best wines made from the region these days do not offer a jammy character in their Amarone. This is something that is being left by the wayside, thank goodness. That was the tasting for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it inspired you to try this wine, and I hope to see you again next time. Thank you.